I'm just going to give you advice from a guy who's made a lot of money on very boring companies. When I lost my dream job, I knew then I was never going to work for anybody long term. I would definitely going to do something that I owned. Unless you're coming up with Google or Hulu, 99.9% of businesses, the names should tell what you do. I'll tell you what high demand is. If you walked into a lunch crowd at a restaurant, 50% of the people would buy what you have. I want a name that when they hear it, they're like, okay, I know exactly what he does. I want a tagline that makes them buy from me. And when I say I've made a lot of money, I have made a lot of money with a handyman company that, it's an 8-figure company. Now you know why they pay me the big money. And your audience gets me for free. I'm a faith-based guy, audience. Let me tell you, everything is an entrepreneur. We create all the jobs. We create the change.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou. And boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a man that I've become dear friends with in a very short period of time. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author, and he is a kick-ass podcaster. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Sean Castrina. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Great to be on the show, Nikki.
Good to have you here, my brother. So, brother,
it's hard to beat that intro. When I said hello, I'm like, geez, I didn't sound quite like he did.
There you go, bro. There you go. That's one of the things we're known for on the show is I'm the Bruce Buffer of the podcast world, if you know who he is.
I noticed that. I'm like, I don't know what, I need to come on and be Conor McGregor next.
There you go, brother. There you go. So listen, the folks who listen to this show, they're entrepreneurs. These are the men and women who I think are society's heroes. They're the ones who got the courage to dream, the tenacity to stick with the dream, and the stick-to-itiveness to follow through and make it come true. They create all the jobs. They create all the innovation that our world sees. And yet, we've got dark forces in our world that crap all over the entrepreneur and say they're selfish, they're bad, they're this and that. We're the antidote to that. We're the ones that basically see them for the greatness that they are. And the reason they listen to this show is because they know we got their backs, and they want to learn. They want to learn not from me because they hear from me every week. They want to learn from you. They want to know what you're all about. And before they can truly open themselves to you, they got to get to know you, man. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Sean Castrina?
Well, let's see how great I am after this intro. Okay, I had, I figured I'd be an employee. If you can imagine, I was a Division I college athlete, but I was competitive. So I had what I thought was a dream job in the DC area after college graduation. And I thought, I would just work my way up, be a CEO and eventually just make lots of money. Had really never thought about the entrepreneurial thing. I didn't even know what that word was. And that's been a really cool word the last decade. Prior to that, it was business owner. Basically an entrepreneur now is just such a vogue, great word to use. But when I lost my dream job, I knew then I was never going to work for anybody long term. I would definitely going to do something that I owned, and sold insurance for a few months. And while I did that, I started, putting stuff together, some plans. And I started, which was funny because it's fit my business model for the last 30 years. I started an auto detailing company, which is funny. Listen, I've never cleaned a car in my life. I am the laziest physical human being you've ever met. I've mowed my grass once, been married 32 years, mowed my grass one time. I don't like physical labor, but I was sitting in a sales meeting and looking at everybody's really nice cars. Insurance is the first time I was around millionaires. That is one occupation where everybody really makes a lot of money. And I was like, it'd be great if I got my car cleaned while I'm in this 2-hour meeting that I'm bored to death. And at the time, this is before, a car deal, a car wash every 600 yards. But at the time it wasn't, normally they'd pick your car up, take it to their shop, and they'd have it for like a whole day. It was, a grand ensemble to get a really nice detail. And so when they did this, I was like, how can I pull this off? Like create a company where we come to like law offices and come to these, expensive businesses like that, and I just sat there and like, okay, we need water in the vans. We need vans, we need this, we need that. And I started a company called Wax Master Mobile D. And this is the business model that I've used for 30 years. I just want to go through it. Unless you're coming up with Google or Hulu, 99.9% of businesses, the name should tell what you do. We try to get so cute. And it was, Wax Master Mobile Detailing. Tagline, America's Choice in Mobile Detailing. Always brag if you can. And that business model, I made over $35,000 that year. I never cleaned anything. All I did is create the advertising and the structure when people, so we took a really bold position and it worked out really, really well. And I have rinsed and repeated that formula, for the last 30 years.
Wow. So your name should say what you do. Why is that important?
I think sometimes we try to get too complicated. We try to come up with really cute names, and then we have to market the name to say what it is we do. And I think that, that's, a really hard thing, that's where people screw up. I think they try to get too cute, and it's very hard when it comes to marketing to make things any more complicated. If you fix phones, I give you a little example. We have a phone place and it's called Fruit Fix It. I don't know what the hell they do. Is it a smoothie shop? They fix Apple phones. Well, why don't you just put, Apple phone repair? Maybe you can't say Apple, phone repair. Just, say what it is you do. And I think if you do that, I think that sometimes we try to get really, really cute with our business names. And I've always kept my names very simple. I always bragged in our tagline. And that formula, finding service companies where there's a high demand has really worked very well over the last 30 years.
So service companies, high demand. I like it. Yeah, that sounds pretty darn good. Okay. Why do you think so many business owners don't get this?
I think the biggest problem is that number one is the ego gets in the way. They try to get super, super cute. They try to get really, really cute with it. And I just think that don't make marketing harder than it needs to be. When somebody hears your business, they should know what it is you do.
Yeah, they should. It makes, now that you're saying this, I go, our company's called eCircle. It stands for Entrepreneur Circle. You know what I mean? And it's just and our tagline should be something like, the world's best, mastermind for entrepreneurs, something like that.
Yeah, I think we do. I think people they really do try to get really cute. They overthink it. And I always say, if I hear your name and you have to tell me what it is you do, it's not a good name.
Yeah.
It's just in basic business. I'm a marketing guy. And I always say, your tagline is, why not? Your tagline should sell your business for you. In other words, it should, example, like Domino's. If you're going to do Domino's, they push that, pizza in 30 minutes or less for 20 years.
That was amazing.
Right. And then Nike, just do it. So I think that if you're going to, if I can educate the audience, I'm just going to give you advice from a guy who's made a lot of money on very boring companies. Say what it is, find something that's in high demand where, I'll tell you what high demand is. If you walked into a lunch crowd at a restaurant, 50% of the people would buy what you have. That's the kind of businesses I personally want, that have a high demand. I like plumbing. I like HVAC. I like clean a car. I like oil change. I want something where there's a demand, because then all I have to do is be better than the competition. I just got to be better. The demand is there. What we try to do is we try to create a demand and we're not sure if it's there. That's hard to do.
It is.
So I prefer to find, like if you look at hamburger companies, well, I don't know. Hardee's is still, they're not going out of business. You got Wendy's. I'm like, Hardee's is like 5 deep in that marketplace. And you look how many sandwich shops there are, like sub shops. It's easier to carve out something different than it is to create demand. So, with that, have a very direct name, you want a marketplace that is so filled with potential customers. The one thing you can't fix in a business is when nobody's interested in what it is you're selling. Yeah. So we try to do the both. We have a super cute name. We enter into a marketplace that's hard to enter in. So we just make it. We wonder why we fail. I'm like, okay, let's try it. Like if my life depended on a business, I would go into a business where I know 50% of the population want it. And I'm exaggerating in the amount, but you get the general idea. I want something where if I went to my kid's ball game, one of the parents of the group, the 10 kids playing baseball, whatever it is, one of them would buy what it is I have. I want something that's that on demand. That's me personally. I want a name that when they hear it, they're like, okay, I know exactly what he does. I want a tagline that makes them buy from me. Your tagline should either brag or promote one promise that if the customer heard what it is you do, they would chase you down for your business. Example, Zappos returns 365 days a year. I can tell you on my phone, I do not shop anywhere clothing before I start with Zappos. I don't care if it's Ralph Lauren. I don't care if it's Louis Vuitton. I mean, I don't care, Johnny Versace. I don't care who it is. Seriously. My first shop, I go to Amazon, I go to Zappos first. Why? Because I got a year to return it if I don't like it. They sold me, So again, I think that we tend to just not do the basics really well in that we go into a marketplace that we're really not sure if there's a demand for it. We got a name that nobody knows what the heck we do. We get so cute with our tagline. Our tagline's like really cute with you and your family, but the rest of the world has no idea what the heck it means. Your tagline should be selling for you. Because then you got to market to think about how much money you have to spend. Let's say that you fix phones again. And the name of the phone, this shop, it's crazy, it drives me crazy. It's Fruit Fix It. Put Fruit Fix It. And then if we asked 100 people what that business probably does, how many of them honestly think it's fix an Apple phone? Right.
0.
90% of them would never guess it. Never. I'm like, if I say to you, our name is Advantage Handyman Services, what do you think we do?
Your handyman company.
Thank you. Our tagline is the leader in home repairs and projects. Reinforces what we do. It expands a little bit, home repairs and projects. So we do something a little larger. It gave the chance for the company to grow a little bit. That's just an example. I took that handyman company and listen to me. I have a plastic toolbox that I got when I got married. I do not know the difference between 2 screwdrivers. And when I say I've made a lot of money, I have made a lot of money with a handyman company that, it's an 8-figure company. Why? Because if you went into a restaurant and you asked 10 people, do you think you'll need a handyman in the next year? I will bet you 30% of them say absolutely. So I just have to be better than all the small guys at Lowe's. Think about it. I've got to compete with all the 50 handyman with their little beat up trucks. Well, how do I position myself better than them? Okay, really simple. I'm going to do background checks on everybody who works for me. I'm not going to send anybody into your home that I wouldn't put in mine. I just eliminated 75% of my competition. Because what's the biggest fear? That the guy goes to work, his wife's at home, a handyman's coming over to do a work day. He's never seen the guy. He's got his kids there. He can choose between 10 handymen. Would he rather have the one that he knows who's going in his house? I can trust that company. I'm just winging it here, but that's actually what I did with a handyman company, and I made millions of dollars with it. And I do that with any company I have. I own Gig Strategic, a digital marketing company. Okay, you can look it up. My partner is James in it. What do we do different? We work with small business owners and we get physically in front of them. We work with people that we can actually get in front of. Like we don't try to do everything online. Everybody wants to do everything online. They almost want to make it a SaaS, everything like a software. I want the complete opposite. The greatest thing in the world is a human being.
Yeah.
So I sell talent. Really a handyman. I'm giving you a talented person that's able to do home repairs that you can't do. There, detailing. I'm giving you a human being who can make your car look great while you're at work. Boom. Digital marketing. You're a business owner. You don't understand how to market. I can send someone to your office or explain it in a Zoom call exactly what it is we do every month. We'll go over what we did last month, show you what worked, what didn't work, and what needs to change. I'm just giving you like how I've made a lot of money, and it ain't rocket science. I don't think anything I've said, puts me up there with Elon Musk, but it's some pretty basic stuff and very good stuff.
Yeah, it's spectacular, but it's absolutely spectacular. I really like what you're saying here because, it makes the whole job of marketing easier. And what's the job of marketing? Well, the job of marketing is to make sales unnecessary, right?
Make it as easy as possible. Why do we make resistance? Why do we create resistance? We do with our marketing. We create resistance because we just, our name's difficult, our tagline's difficult, and we don't understand how to market. We don't know what a target customer is.
So I like all this stuff. Yeah. So how would you apply this to the world of coaching, consulting, expert-driven services, right? Because most people will use their own name.
Yeah.
Like Nikki Billu Coaching. Or in my case, we came up with eCircle Academy, and that was cute. It was short for Entrepreneur Circle. It doesn't tell people what we do now. Entrepreneur Circle kind of does, but it can be better.
Yeah. Okay. Like I'll give you an example. We haven't launched it yet, so I'm not throwing anything out there where I'm competing anybody. But ours was called Tribe of Entrepreneurs. You know exactly what we do. I mean, in our mastermind. Now I don't have it. I haven't launched it yet. Okay, but it's sitting on the shelf. But when I came up with the name Tribe of Entrepreneurs, it's a group of entrepreneurs. You know exactly. It's a group of us. Now I'll use the tagline to break into the specificity of it if I want to. Example, scaling your business 1-0. Maybe that's our value proposition. We're going to scale your business 1 additional 0. And again, I had no idea you were asking me these questions. So I'm just really but that's what I would do if I was a coach. If I was a coach, think about it for a second. What is it who's my person I'm selling to? And what is the number one problem they have? Well, if I'm a business coach, I can tell you the number one problem people are having. They want to grow their business.
They want to grow their business.
And that's making more money. So if you told your clients, hey, listen, I'll scale your business 1 additional 0. You think they'd be interested in hiring you? Absolutely. Now you got to figure out how you're going to fulfill it. You got to back it up. But the point is still the same. This is why I do the weekend MBA, why I founded it. This will change your audience's life if they just buy into this one statement, and you will too. What is the one promise that if you could make and deliver on, your customers would chase you down for your business? And that's where you need to get alone and think about it. Southwest Airlines said, we're going to basically, make our flights cheaper than everybody. Okay. Don't get me wrong. You're never going to eat anything. And it's different, but that was their value proposition at the time. Cheap, quick flights. Okay. It worked. I mean, that worked for them. Amazon, you'll get anything. If you go to our site, you can find anything in the world. And we'll get it to you probably by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. Isn't that what we all think about Amazon?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, now they have a tagline. It's like I've seen their logo and they don't even have a tagline, but they've beat into our consciousness through what they've done is that Amazon, we probably sell everything and we can probably get it to you faster than anybody. FedEx, think about it. This is the perfect example. FedEx, it blows me away. We will give you a package within 24 hours. We can deliver a package anywhere in the world. This is in the early 1980s. We'll get a package, a letter anywhere in the world delivered. That is I believe that is one of the most audacious promises next to Elon Musk and everybody talking about bringing people to Mars. But second to putting people on Mars, I would argue that FedEx had the biggest value proposition ever introduced in business. We're going to take this letter in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're going to get it delivered to Tel Aviv in 24 hours. How they figured that out? It's the greatest logistical company in the history of the planet. But he found an extraordinary value proposition. Remember, you had UPS at the time, you had US Postal Service. Well, UPS will get you a package, but it's probably 2 to 3 days. The Postal Service will get it there at some point. FedEx said, well, what if we can get it there overnight? It completely separated them from DHL and everybody else. We all know why you hire FedEx. You hire FedEx when you need something immediately. It needs, you need to send a contract overnight, whatever it is, it has to be there overnight. Now you think about it, they completely separated themselves from the shipping market with that one promise. That was a ridiculous, unbelievable promise. Think about Domino's Pizza. If we remember in the 1980s and early 90s, everybody delivered pizza. Johnny's Pizza. Everybody had, a couple teenagers and everybody had like a Ford Escort and they were running pizzas everywhere. Domino's said, what if we can get you a hot pizza in under 30 minutes? Change the game. Change the game. Domino's is where they're at now because of that 20 years of feasting on that ability to do that. So I say to any business owner, the problem is that we come out with a good value proposition. It's okay. But what's a great value proposition? What is a promise that's so incredible that if our customers heard it, they would chase us down? I'm going to go back to the handyman company. This is what I did. Okay. What if you called our office and you actually spoke to a human being? Back then, in the early, everybody everything went to them answering services. Remember that? Answering services were huge. Or it went to an answering machine even. So we said, when you call our office, you're actually going to speak with somebody. So I'm going to pay to have somebody physically in the office. Nobody did that at the time. Number two is I hired all handymen with a minimum of 10 years experience that we did a background check on. We would give you a written estimate. When we started your job, we would not leave your job until we finished, and that we'd come back the next day. The biggest problem with contractors are they start stuff and never finish.
Yep. 100%.
Right. So I just sat down as a consumer and I said, okay, what if I could, you called, you'd speak with a knowledgeable person who would schedule the estimate when you called. You're actually going to speak with somebody. We give you a written estimate and we'd honor it. We'd send somebody to your house with a minimum of 10 years of experience that you could trust was in your house, and they would not stop your job until they finished it. They'd come back every day until it was done, and we'd honor the price we originally gave. What if we could do those 4 things? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've made millions of dollars off of a very simple business that I didn't know anything about, that I still don't know anything about, but I know what customers want because I know what I wanted. And I have rinsed and repeated that formula for the last 20 years.
I'm learning a lot here, Sean. This is really good stuff. I mean, when you talked about Tribe of Entrepreneurs, I thought that was great. Scale your business by 1-0. I thought that was great. Honestly, any coach can do some variation of this for themselves. I think it's great, man.
Now you know why they pay me the big money, and your audience gets me for free. Now I'm passionate about this. I'm addicted to entrepreneurship, like what you said. Next to faith, I'm a faith-based guy, audience. Let me tell you,
Amen.
Next to faith and what happens in that relationship, entrepreneurship is second. Why? Because entrepreneurship funds every mission that a pastor is excited about. It's the entrepreneurs in the church that pony up the money. All those buildings at the universities, all those stadiums, they're named after entrepreneurs. You line up every stadium that has a name on it, they're entrepreneurs. 90% of the time. So, I mean, we create all the jobs. We create the change. Everything is an entrepreneur. I always say everybody keeps talking about climate change. It'll never happen through a government. It'll happen. An entrepreneur will mark my words, and I hope I live to see it. It'll be an entrepreneur that creates a seismic change. And we have with the electric car. In fairness, we're moving in the direction of it. I'm not a big fan of everything that's out there. But my point is, it's still an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs change the world. They do. They sit around and they improve something, and they're motivated because of capitalism.
Yeah.
My third favorite thing, I go faith, entrepreneurship, and capitalism, the ability to, make money because you took action on something. And that's amazing. I love it. I'm addicted.
So I tell you something, Sean, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. I want to bring you back to have more of these types of discussions with us. And I want to bring you have a conversation about all this for my men's show as well, because I think
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really great. There's something I want to say before we wrap up. Entrepreneurs are society's greatest heroes. Everything good happens because an entrepreneur had a dream, had the courage to go after it, and will not quit. And the reason I do what I do is I want to serve entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the greatest human beings on the planet, from my perspective. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was the greatest human being I ever knew. Everything good that happened in and around me had in its root my father's love for people and his desire to make a difference. And I believe very much in, men like you and women like, my beautiful lady who's an entrepreneur. You are the folks who make every good thing in the world happen. But the last comment I want to make before we wrap up is that what you said today about marketing and about really understanding what people's pain points are and where is there already demand. Demand exists where pain exists. Demand exists where pain exists. And if you understand what people's pain is, then you want to create offerings and businesses and programs and products that address those pains. And if you do that and you've got really, really good messaging, you're in great shape. Like, you've taught me a ton about messaging. I like what you shared. I'm gonna R&D it, rip off and duplicate, as they say. You got to go after something for which there's high demand. You got to be better than the competition. Your name's got to say what you do. And I know I can definitely get better at that. Yeah. And your tagline has got to brag about what you do and make a big, bold promise to people. You do that, your marketing job becomes easier. Doesn't mean that that'll market you by itself. You still got to market. You still got to get it out there. But this will just make your job easier. I really appreciate what you've shared with us today, Sean. This is primo grade A stuff, man.
Thank you, Nicky. I appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy. So Sean, people want to find out more about you. People want to engage with you, your content. What's the best way?
Yeah. If you go listen to the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast, this is where you get stuff like I just shared every week, because I'm always throwing out something that's quick, but you can use. And that'll always help you. If you go to SeanCastrina.com, you get a free book, The 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success. And, follow me on Instagram. I'm always dropping something that I think could be positive. I'm not the best at social media, but my stuff's genuine. And so, I would say go to SeanCastrina.com and listen to the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast. People that listen to one podcast are typically listening to 5 of them.
At least, that's actually what we found as well.
Yeah.
And hey, I've been a guest on your show. Now you've been a guest online.
Yeah.
This is going to be great. We'll get back on each other's shows. I think this is fantastic. So listener, Sean Castrina is the real deal. What he has to share about how to market is on point. This is a man who understands marketing really, really well. What he's taught you today is fantastic stuff. I say take advantage of it. Go to his website, SeanCastrina.com. Check out his podcast. And if you enjoyed this, then here's what I want you to do. If there's a friend of yours that needs to hear this message, share the episode. Share the episode. This is a fantastic podcast. We bring you world-class guests. And you know what? Make sure that good people who need what these people have to offer, people like Sean, get to hear it. Because I bet you got a friend who's making all these mistakes that Sean talked about. And you can help that person avoid making those mistakes any longer just by having them listen to this episode. So do yourself a favor and do that. All right. Sean Castrina, man, brother from another mother.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Rock and roll, baby. Great to have you here, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Nicky.
Yeah, you bet. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's guest, the one and only Sean Castrina, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this podcast, be it iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, Google Play. It'll be in those show notes wherever you listen to this podcast. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.